can't eat.
There's something powerful about the journey of leadership, the daily steps, the long-term vision, and everything we learn along the way. Welcome to the second season of Leadership Labs, where we explore these journeys with the incredible leaders of the Aurora Public Schools. In each episode, we hear from those who are helping guide our district toward Destination APS, sharing their stories, their challenges, and the lessons they've learned along the way. Today, we're joined by Jessica Abel-Pype, principal of Dalton Elementary, and Jessica's leadership story is one of transformation and persistence. I think in 17th year with APS and 8th year as principal at Dalton. She has led her school from priority improvement status in year 1 to 4 consecutive years of performance ratings post-pandemic. Her journey demonstrates that with the right leadership, vision, commitment, team, that any school can not just improve, but excel. So we're really excited to have you, Jessica.
Thank you for that.
Before we dive into your leadership journey, tell us just a little bit about who you are and what makes Dalton Elementary so special.
Okay, so I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I had a bit of a circuitous route to education. Before I finished my bachelor's, I had been to 2 community colleges and 2 four-year universities. And so I started teaching later in life. And first job was at Dalton Elementary, teaching 5th grade in Aurora Public Schools.
Amazing. And what makes Dalton so special to you?
So Dalton, to me, is a school where I have experienced the most just love for each other among the staff. When I tell people like the team is like a family, it sounds like it's not real, but it's real. I feel the love every day, and we hope that students and families and staff feel that too. But it's really a place where no one person has to do anything alone because there's a team.
I love that. And you've been with APS 17 years, and you've been at Dalton 8, which I think is a pretty significant commitment to both the district and to the Dalton community in particular. And as you know, as every time we ask, what does a typical day look like on the podcast, we know there isn't one. And so what does the day-to-day look like for the leader of Dalton Elementary?
I'll go with what did it look like today.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
So we started the day with our late start professional learning as a whole staff. And I went straight into a meeting with a parent. From there, I worked with a student who was transitioning into school, having a hard time. Then I met with some district level leaders, and then did some impromptu 5th grade lunch duty.
Oh, good.
Because the day started so late. By the time all that happened, it was already lunchtime. And then when I would have transitioned probably next into classrooms, I ate a few bites to come here and meet with you, but time in classrooms, time with kids, conferring with my team about how we're supporting students or staff. I mean, there's so many things that happen in a day, and every day is really different. I think my days probably feel most successful when I'm able to follow the schedule I planned for myself. Yep. But sometimes they also feel successful because I didn't, and I supported wherever I was needed. So yeah, a lot of variety in the day of an elementary principal.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing. We're going to talk a little bit about the training ground for your journey, but what first drew you to education?
So as I said, it took me a long time to really know what I wanted to do, but in the time leading up to when I started teaching at the age of, I think it was 28 or 29, a lot of the jobs I had had and a lot of the experiences I had to do with kids in some way. So when I was in high school, I tutored an elementary age student who lived on my street. I kind of consider her like my first student ever. And I really found a lot of joy and satisfaction in connecting with her, and being able to offer something that a skill that I had to impact someone else's life. And then later, like in my 20s, I worked in a daycare. I worked at a photography studio that was focused on kids, taking pictures of kids. Just a lot of things that I did connected to kids. And when I started college, the very first time, I picked elementary education as a major. And when I finished college 10, 12 years later, I picked elementary education as my major. So I think I always knew it was what I needed to do, but it just took a really long time to get there. But I had a lot of experiences in between that helped me, by the time I got there, know that I was in the right spot.
That's amazing. Can you share your journey within APS, and especially would just love to hear how maybe the first 9 years prepared you for your current role?
Yeah, I think now that I'm thinking about it, maybe this 8-year gig is the longest one I've ever had of any type of job. So my first job in APS was teaching 5th grade at Altura Elementary. And I had a typical kind of first year teaching, like just learning so much.
Right.
But I was on a team with 2 other 5th grade teachers who were also new to the school. So it was a really unique experience, and really kind of put me in a leadership role from the beginning, because we were all trying to figure out what in the world we were supposed to be doing. And then my second year of teaching, we got a new principal, Carrie Clark, and she was the principal at Altura for the next 4 years.
Okay.
She then took the position of principal opening a John W. Mosley P8, and invited me to come along as an instructional TOSA. And so I really never saw myself leaving the classroom, but felt like you also don't say no to an opportunity like that. And so off we went, and we had our planning year. And at that time, to start, it was really just Carrie and me. And we, you plan everything from the programming. You do the hiring, and integrated in our hiring process was observing teachers. And so we did that side by side for, almost a full year. She really, really encouraged me to look into a master's program, principal preparation program. And I kind of thought she was crazy. I'd only been teaching for 5 years and was now then learning how to coach. And during our planning year, she helped me set up some coaching at Altura, even though I wasn't working there anymore, to build those skills. And then we were observing all these teachers, and we were giving face-to-face feedback through the hiring process. Yeah. And then she really nudged me hard to go through that program. And so really, by the time the school opened, we were ready to hire for an assistant principal. And I was like, wait a second, like I just spent all this time planning and preparing, like this feels like blood, sweat, and tears, like went into planning this. I can't imagine bringing someone else in for this. And so we talked about it. And I was an admin TOSA the first year we opened, as I finished the master's part of the program, and then moved into the assistant principal role. So it wasn't something I set out to do, but really under Carrie's mentorship, really built a lot of skills fast. And I think things that she could see while we worked at Altura, that she really helped bring out and foster, and help me get to know even more about who I was as a leader, because that's not really how I saw myself prior to that time.
That is incredible. I think you touched a little bit on my next 2 questions, right? One of like, what was the moment when you knew, I'm not going to pass up this opportunity? And then also, who were some key mentors that helped to, shape you as a leader?
So in terms of passing up the opportunity, I think I just had so much respect for Carrie and her leadership. The way that I saw Altura transform over the time that we worked there, that I just felt like, why would I say no? And I never dreamed that I wouldn't return to what I was doing. It just felt like, sure, I'll take this kind of, departure. but I never expected to move into this. Through the master's program that I did, the culminating project is like create your ideal school.
Right.
But that was also my job, was to create this ideal school. So I think because of the work that I got to do in planning and creating Mosley, and then doing it from kind of the research side at DU,
Mm-hmm.
it just felt like the stars aligned. Like this is what I was meant to be doing, because everything I learned was then directly applicable to the school.
Yeah.
And so in terms of mentors, definitely Carrie. But in the time that I've been in a leadership role, I mean, so many people. I have been fortunate in the 8 years I've been at Dalton. There's been some changes across the team, my direct leadership team in terms of, teaching partner,
Right.
assistant principal. But over that time, every single person who's worked in a leadership role at Dalton has been someone of incredible character, someone who's been incredibly committed to kids. And so when you share the same values, it becomes really easy to lead together, and then you can build on each other's strengths. So I definitely have, mentors and people I admire in my immediate team. When I took the principal role at Dalton, at the same time, Moran Stone became the principal of Dartmouth Elementary. So she and I kind of came up through that together. And every year as a principal is really different and interesting. Your first year, it's kind of like going back to being a first year teacher, except the kids love you. The grown-ups don't always love you, especially if your job is to change something. And so Moran was definitely a huge support over the many years that we were in similar roles. And then at the district level, Yolanda Greer was my coach for, I think, 3 years. In my first 3 really pivotal years. I've had some amazing directors. I've had a lot of different directors. They've all really had something different to offer me. Yeah. And so I think, I've just really evolved as the needs of our school have evolved. I think my own leadership has evolved with it. Yeah.
This is a quick shout out to Yolanda Greer. Jessica asked me right before we hit record, when did you know that you were going to become a podcaster? And I shared it was over winter break of last year because I had been engaged in the leadership practices inventory. And one of the things that I was working on was encouraging the heart, and wanted to think of a creative way to tell the stories and celebrate the incredible work that folks like Jessica are doing across our district. And so shout out to Yolanda Greer for pushing me to think about how to meaningfully celebrate folks who are doing great work in our district. When you arrived at Dalton, it was in priority improvement. Can you just paint a picture of what you found there and how you approach that challenge?
So when I came to Dalton, the previous 10 years, the school had been in performance. Mm-hmm. But when looking more deeply, what you could see is there was a slow and steady decline. And so then that last year, there was just kind of off the cliff, change in the data. And so on one hand, I was a little shocked because I wasn't expecting, no one was expecting it. And on the other hand, it was in some ways a gift, because when you're asked to go into a school where perceptions are that it's, doing fine and change it, it is extremely hard for the adults. And a lot of the staff had been there for a long time. So I was able to frame it with the sense of urgency that it required. Right. And I think that really helped us understand that it wasn't about me being a different leader with a different, not different, just a new direction that we needed to go. It was really about what is the data telling us that our students need. Yeah. And so we were able to use that status as priority improvement as our calling to get some things done quickly. But it was extremely challenging for everyone. Yeah. We had a really difficult first year, but we also came out of it so much stronger, and did a lot of strong collaboration from the beginning.
That's amazing. And I think, as you know, one of the things about the podcast is we're just hoping to learn from you. So Can you tell us, what were some of the key strategies or even just some of the changes during that first year that were able to propel you all to get to improvement and then of course later back to performance?
Well, I don't think it would surprise any educational leader to say that we started with tier one instruction, and it was really about getting on the same page. So at the same time that we started, APS had recently adopted a literacy curriculum. So that's when we took on Wonders for the first time in 2018.
Okay.
And so we focused on tier one literacy, and we started with unit level planning. And so as an instructional leadership team, which is our core group, principal, assistant principal, teaching partner, teacher leader, we would plan the unit as though we were going to execute the lessons. And then we would model for staff, and collectively, all in the same room, we would sit in our grade level teams and we would plan the Wonders unit. And there wasn't really any guidance about how to do that. And so we created our own guidance. Wonders is a very comprehensive curriculum. If you had a 6-hour literacy block, you could fill it with Wonders. So really making collaborative decisions about how are we going to condense this? What do we prioritize? How are we going to approach each element in each moment of our literacy block? And so that was really the focus for our whole entire first year.
I love that you're talking about modeling the way as we think about the leadership practices inventory, and it's a requisite. I think it makes a big difference for principals and instructional leadership teams to do that work alongside teachers and model the way.
Yep.
Let's transition. So the last 4 years, Dalton's maintained the performance rating.
Mm-hmm.
What has it taken for you all to sustain that level of success? I know you all consistently continue to get, high growth, and I know that you're always striving for higher growth year over year.
So it kind of relates to a little bit of the gap kind of in between what we just talked about, which is the pandemic.
Yes.
And so when the pandemic hit, our approach that wasn't even necessarily conscious at the time, so many things were happening so fast, you didn't know what was happening the next day. So I can't say at the time I was like, this is my strategy. But now as I look back, what we did is we identified priorities. Our first priority was to care for each other. And I think that learning really transformed me. That time of life for all of us, everyone was reflecting about our values and priorities. And so as a school, we were identifying we can't do everything anymore. One, we don't even have access to our students.
Right.
And so what are we going to focus on? And so I think that really shaped even what we're doing now in terms of understanding that we've got to do a few things extremely well. And then as we add on new things, we have to maintain what's been, underway. And so we haven't had any significant shift in our strategic plan over the 8 years. The focus areas have evolved, but nothing is brand new. We started with restorative practices in year 1. In year 8, we're still refining that, and we're adding in a lot of deeper learning for staff and students around social emotional learning and emotional regulation. But, from the beginning, it was all about social emotional needs of kids. We started with an SEL block in year 1. What we're doing with that time is now much more meaningful. But I think it's really been about evolving our practice and getting better and stronger, focusing in key areas, and then really emphasizing building sustainable systems. I would love for a legacy at Dalton to be that no matter who comes and goes over time, although we don't have a lot of coming and going, eventually that will happen, and that our staff will believe enough in the systems that we've created that they would be able to sustain, because we've created them together, because we understand them, how they work and how they serve kids, that they would remain regardless of who might come and go.
That's an incredible goal to have. And I'm sure the work that you all are doing now and have been doing like over the last 8 years will be able to, continue.
We've got a little more to do, but we're on our way for sure.
As you know, this is the probably hardest question that leaders respond to, but in any marathon, there are significant mile markers that stand out. What has been your proudest moment as the principal of Dalton?
I think this is an easy question for me.
Oh, good.
Because it is that, year one, we were in priority improvement. We moved into improvement, and then we didn't have data for multiple years
Right.
because of the pandemic. But we were the only school in Aurora Public Schools who moved into performance during the pandemic. So everyone else in performance following the pandemic was already there. And so that, knowing that we made all the right moves
Heck
in
yeah.
such a challenging time and still cared for, staff and students and families, that is definitely it for me.
Congratulations. I didn't know that about you all, and I
Fun
love
fact.
that. I love that for you all. I love that for you all. Okay, so as you've alluded to, leading a school through improvement requires difficult decisions and/or changes. Can you share, a particularly challenging period and how you navigated it?
Yeah, it's definitely the first year. Um, I think that change is extremely hard for adults, especially when there's a perception that things are fine, but the
Right.
data says otherwise. And so, I building a school from the ground up, which is what my assistant principalship was about. You're hiring people that really want to come to a new school. And so my experience as an assistant principal was very different than walking into a school saying, "Hi, I'm the new lady, and we're going to change, a handful of things." And so that was really hard for people. And then what then I had to do was navigate kind of each new challenge, each big emotion that surfaced, whether that was an individual or sometimes a group that was really expressing, not feeling okay about what we were doing. And so I think I learned a lot in that year, that I didn't know maybe that I knew how to handle it. And my director at the time, Casey Summers, was also a great support. But really just kind of addressing it head on, naming what was happening,
Yeah.
collaborating as much as I could with the staff in terms of getting input, and understanding though that the direction we were headed needed to be, something very clear
Yeah.
and specific based on what the data was telling us. So it was difficult, but as I said at the beginning, we definitely came together. There's a lot of staff that are still here that were there then. And I can say, remember how hard that was, and they know what I mean.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was tough, but it was good learning for all of us.
Good. Okay. The next question is just, even you talked about the caring for each other. I was privileged to get a little bit of insight into your communications in January 2025. I had an opportunity to join you all on your first day back with the casino theme. What has been, the key to building and maintaining the culture at Dalton that supports the incredible work that you all are doing with students and the outcomes you all are achieving?
So I don't know that I knew this or felt this 8 years ago, but at some point in this journey, I have come to recognize that for me, the culture of a school and the performance of a school, the academic achievement of a school, are equally important. And I don't know if I always knew that, as well as I know that now. And I think the pandemic, again, was such an important learning experience for me as a leader. But I think it's about maintaining both, putting equal effort into both, not letting go of how we care for staff once the pandemic was, quote unquote, over. It's not really over. There's still, longstanding
Right.
impacts for kids, but attending to both the culture and the climate of the school as much as we attend to the academic supports and instruction of our school.
Thank you for sharing that. And again, I love learning new things and remembering some old things, and I hope that folks who are listening are able to, listen in with those two lenses, right? Of how important it is. I think especially for some of our new to role leaders, and we have quite a bit of them this year. So thank you. Okay, a little bit lighter. Want to learn about your playlist. So, of course, leaders need inspiration to keep moving forward. Is there a book or author that has influenced your approach to leadership that you would share with us?
So I'm really bad at remembering titles, authors, music artists, anything like that. But I think so many different texts I remember reading, through the early years of my leadership. Most recently, our equity and learning team finished reading the new Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander.
Yeah.
That's a thick text.
It is.
But we really dove in across an entire school year. I started a book in May, and I'm going to tell everyone I haven't finished it yet. I haven't picked it up since I got back in July, but it's called Systems Thinking for Social Change. I'm really interested, as I mentioned, in creating sustainable systems and really thinking about what might different leadership teams at our school need to understand about systems thinking in order for systems that we build together to sustain, knowing that not everyone has access to that type of learning. Right. In a traditional, say, teaching preparation program, you're not thinking about systems. But teachers are so integrated in the systems that we have. How can I provide learning around systems so that what we do really has ownership from many levels of our staff?
I'll have to check it out.
I'm not super, maybe a third of the way in, but what I've read so far, I definitely want to continue.
Good. We're currently reading a book, the district leadership team, a book called The Job is Easy, the People Are Not. And it's been really interesting.
Sounds right.
All right. I know you're bad with artist names and etc., but what about music? What's playing in your headphones?
So we have is it called Apple Music?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I literally play on shuffle my entire music library in the car on the way to work. And then I just hit skip until I find something that, hits me in that day. But it might be, I love Pink and Kelly Clarkson, Ed Sheeran, kind of like, more pop. But then, you might hear a song from the Beach Boys or James Taylor in there. It's a pretty random assortment. My husband says I should maybe listen to some newer music, but I like when I know the words and I can sing along.
Yeah. I love that so much. I'm a big fan of really 90s hip hop. And what I have loved recently is artists who I loved in the 90s now making albums in 2025. So, like Ghostface Killah from the Wu-Tang Clan just released Supreme Clientele 2, which is just a second installment of an album he did in the 90s. And so I love that.
I like the nostalgia, but
it
doesn't take a lot for me to be into a song if I know the words.
Yep. All right. Destination APS lightning round. What does Destination APS mean to you and the Dalton community?
So for me, it's about just there should be no better place for a student than our school, than our district. When we, sometimes you learn about maybe a student or a family before they arrive, and you learn about maybe some challenges that they're facing. And my first thought is always, they're in the right place. Yeah. We know that there's not a possibility of a student falling through the cracks at our school, or a student not being seen or loved at our school. And so Absolutely. We think that Dalton is the destination that people want to be and need to be, and we want the same for our larger district for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. And let me just echo that too, right? That we already have destination schools all over Aurora. And yeah, Dalton is one of them. Um, if you could share one piece of advice with a principal who, is in their first year, maybe a school that they might think it's fine, but the data are telling us otherwise, um, you know, what would it be?
So I think the obvious is that people know they need to change academic outcomes. So I think in addition to that, you gotta love your people and you gotta wash your hands. There's a lot of germs in the elementary setting, and so both of those things, and you'll be in good shape.
Oh, thank you. All right. Last question for you. How do you define success for Dalton beyond the ratings?
I think for me, it's about how people feel when they walk through the doors, when they sit in the classroom, when they teach in a classroom. It's that you feel seen. It's that you can be successful in whatever your job is. If you're a student, you can be successful in your learning. If you're a teacher, you can be successful in your teaching, or any type of support role in the school. You understand your role and you understand how it impacts others. So you come in feeling good about what's being asked of you, and you leave feeling great about what you accomplished.
Yes. Thank you for sharing that, Jessica, and thank you for sharing your leadership journey with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Your story of leading Dalton from prior improvement to sustained performance demonstrates that transformation is possible with that persistence, clear vision, and an unwavering commitment to students and families. To our listeners, join us next time as we continue exploring the paths of those who are helping guide us toward Destination APS. We do have our entire second season, I think, booked for the fall semester. So until then, keep running your race with purpose.